Welcome to this Astro Priestesses Roundtable for the Taurus Solar Month. Somehow we've made it almost all the way through the Aries Solar Month, and it has been wild and transformative. And I imagine that many people who've been listening to this, it's like you had the eclipse experience that you had. We're all just talking about our eclipse experience. It's been pretty amazing, and sometimes some unexpected energies have come in and maybe directed us in different ways. And so as the sun moves into Taurus on April 19th, it's just the day before the Jupiter Uranus conjunction in Taurus. It's been 84 years, I think 83 or 84 years since they've been together in Taurus. They come together every 13 years in different signs, but it's been a really long time. And so if we think of a conjunction as being similar to a new moon, when the sun and the moon come together and we have a new moon, well, when two planets come together, it's like a new moon energy, a seed planting time for that energy. And thinking about Uranus and Jupiter, they're both visionary. They're both, someone might like to say that Uranus is the higher octave of Jupiter, which I don't know if I totally agree with that, because because it's like each of the planets has their own energy and what they offer and what they bring. And so we don't want to necessarily compare them or say it in that way. But to have these two planets coming together in the Taurian mysteries, and we've been experiencing this for some time, actually. Jupiter went into Taurus last year, and it's been catching up to Uranus this whole time. So the opportunity is that we get to see things in a different way, and especially around the Taurian mysteries. Taurus is all about how are we living in the greatest amount of pleasure and beauty, and being able to savor the extraordinary opportunity we have to be alive on the planet at this time. How are we really creating a deeper intimacy with the earth? How are we creating a deeper intimacy with ourselves? How are we creating an earth that is a paradise? We could think of, what's happened on the earth hasn't, what humans have done to the earth hasn't really been about that. It seems like it's been more about how are we taking advantage of the resources? How have we been polluting the earth? How have we been not really honoring and celebrating the earth? Although there are many of us who do that. And I feel like this is a seed point to take us into doing that even more. And that perhaps that each of us who are doing that and vibrating with that energy, it sends a ripple effect into the earth, into the world, to do that even more. So that's part of what I'm seeing as how this is, I think we're going to go in unexpected directions. Uranus is all about that. We're going to be breaking free of the old perceptions of how it is that we've been living on the earth, so we can get into new ways, cutting edge, new ways of perceiving and being with planet Earth. And of course, Jupiter's going to help expand the visions around how we do that. So I'm just going to turn this over now, just because it just feels like the most important thing happening in this Taurus solar month. So I'm just going to turn it over and see where we go from here.
What I was feeling with this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction is like it's woven into the eclipse in a way, because it's like we are still in the solar lunation that it was started by the solar eclipse. So there is this new beginning in Aries, the impulse, but we had Mercury retrograde. So during this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, we still have Mercury retrograde. And Mars is still in Pisces. So there is this impulse for something new. There is this inner revolution with the Uranus and Jupiter, but we still don't have the clarity, and we don't have even the energy to go for it that much until Mars enters Aries. That is going to be within this month, in the 30th, at the end of the month. So I think that is the moment of just saying, okay, now go for it. So during all this time, we are having these revelations that they are very planted, as we were talking in the last season, like is dreaming with Saturn and Mars in Pisces. Mars is going to get closer to Neptune as well. So the opportunity to really receive the information for that new thing that we are bringing forward, the thing is emphasized with this conjunction of Jupiter, Uranus, that is truly telling us in which areas of our lives we're trying to live a life that is obsolete. It's like, just done, just break it free, because Taurus doesn't like change that much. It's like, if this chocolate is good, why am I going to try a new one? But sometimes maybe you are missing the best chocolate in the world. So there is this idea of something can be good, but maybe there is something even better. There is something even more enjoyable that you are not allowing yourself to experience, all of us, because it requires a change in our identity. And I think that is what is happening with this Uranus Jupiter conjunction. It's like a whole breaking of how we think, like especially connected with eclipse also. It's like who we think we were, we are not that person anymore. So it's like, who are we? and we don't have clarity yet. And it's like, how can we take action without the clarity? And how can we dream into it? How can we allow our body? I think during this Jupiter Uranus is also very important to be very connected with our bodies and our somatic experiences and the messages that come through nature and the body, doing like shamanic journeys to receive information. And when Mars, like next month, that is still part of it, there will be this moment to action. And within this story, I think the full moon is also very interesting because it's in Taurus Scorpio. So it's bringing up a story that we have been working for several years when the nodal axis was there. And now it's like, okay, we're done with that. So whatever we have Taurus Scorpio, what the house is and everything, that story, we are really ready for a new beginning. And it's important to be brave because the North Node is in Aries still, and that's the a healthy version of Aries, and really take action. And something that I see a lot, mentoring like entrepreneurs and projects, is like we really struggle with taking action. And taking action sometimes means resting. Taking action sometimes means saying no to projects that are really draining our energy. Taking action is not doing more. Sometimes it's doing less, but doing less of the right things. And the right things that we are asked to do, normally they requires courage, because they are the ones that we don't really want to do, because they are, so it's kind of like we are distracted with all this busyness in order not to do the action that life is truly asking us. And I think that is kind of like the energy that I was feeling, especially for the ending of April and beginning of May. And then I don't have any clarity when Mars is into Aries. It's like, I don't know. So I'm really looking forward to listen to all of you, because I stopped there. I'm like, I don't know.
This is juicy. I already feel that. I always love the full moon in Scorpio time. I don't know what it is. It could be because I'm Taurus rising, Scorpio descendant. Like there's something so juicy to me about this time. It's also, we're in the approaching, building up to Beltane time. So that midpoint between equinox and summer, like there's such a sensuality, such a natural aliveness that wants to come through in this time. And I think I love that you set it up so well, Maud, because it's this like, well, we don't know who we are yet in this new expression of self, this new initiated, healed version of self. And how juicy, because when you don't know, you're going to put on way fewer limitations. You're not going to be living up to this, like, okay, checking all of these boxes. There's an inherent sense of freedom, which I think is what the Jupiter Uranus is really about. It's like free yourself, free your body, like free yourself out of these boxes of your rituals, your routines, and not becoming stagnant in what's comfortable. And really, I think we can use this full moon energy to really help us get into that sacred sexiness with life. I mean, that's really what it's all about. You know, we want to feel the carpe diem. Like, I want to be here fully. Like, I just want to feel this, all of this, and let that be what guides me. I've been doing a lot of wonderful practices with myself, and even on the retreat that I just led. And it's been very based on priorities and understanding, well, what am I doing first? And how does what I do first influence everything else that comes after it? And I was sort of assessing, well, what's natural for me to put on my list first? And I have to say, I'm really proud of myself, because I was like, oh, the thing that I put on my list first is the thing I'm currently enjoying the most. It's going on my list first. It's what's getting scheduled in first. And then it's like, oh, the other things down the list, they're going to go in after. And I think it's so important to live that way, because if you fill yourself up with what feels the best first, you have more energy, you have more radiance, you have more love to give, your heart is more open to experience. So I think that's the reshuffling of the priorities. It's like, free yourself from all the stagnant things that you think you have to do, and then come into like, well, what feels alive and joyful for me to do, and just trust I will have exactly what is needed left over for the other things, rather than, you know, spending too much time or too much energy in the things that really are not going to serve. Tuning into the Mars sextile to the Jupiter Uranus conjunction as well, Mars in Pisces, after having just began a new cycle with Saturn, it seems like this whole new foundation for how we take action. And I think that it's a surrendered action kind of thing. So surrendering to our true desires and actually releasing all of the falsehoods, the false versions of self, all the things that we think we have to do to uphold some identity of who we think we have to be. So there's this new surrendered foundation, but inherent in that, I think, is all of the trust that we've also been building up with all of the Aries energy. So leaning into instincts, leaning into, okay, this is what I want to do right now, but I can trust that those desires are seated in me for a reason. And so the Pisces, the Aries, the Taurus, there's a lot of opportunity here. That's what I think the Mars sextile, the Jupiter Uranus conjunction is. There's opportunity for surrendered freedom. And what else is possible when you live your life that way? So I'm really looking forward to everything this month that can really be rooted in that.
Oh, I love that, Nara, because what I was literally coming through as you were sharing, and then it was like you were speaking to it as it was coming through for me is, you know, I just wanted to share. I felt like intuitively led. If your life has been like turned upside down with this eclipse season, what's here in this Jupiter Uranus conjunction for you is possibility. I feel like we can trust and whatever is coming up for us at this time. Uranus is a great awakener, right? Jupiter is the great expander. Whatever's happening is for our highest expansion, to awaken to our highest truth. And that doesn't mean that it's going to be easy, what's happening right now. It could be, right? Like, to me, Uranus is so much about, Uranus is a great awakener. It awakens us to our highest truth. It's about, like you spoke to, Nora, freedom, liberation. And Uranus speaks to the evolutionary journey of Uranus is about releasing resistance. So Uranus is going to speak to our relationship with Uranus. How in or out of resistance are we to living in Taurus, right? Living in an embodied way where we'll feel free, where we'll feel liberated. So if we're like, you know, really like clinging, which can be like kind of easy to do with the Taurus energy, if we're like clinging to what feels comfortable and what feels known, when Uranus is involved, it can feel like shattering. It can feel like the rug just got pulled out from under us. And it can be really, really hard. But when that does happen, I've had these experiences in my life that when they do happen, it is for our highest expansion. We just can't always see it, and it's for that sense of liberation. Now, if we're like really in a flowy way, you might say, with releasing resistance, this Uranus Jupiter conjunction, and this could happen for any of us regardless, can bring unexpected opportunities, can be really exciting. It's like, wow, with Jupiter there, that door just opened. Like there's a doorway that just opened all of a sudden that I didn't even know was there, that I can step into this new possibility. And I just feel like regardless, to me, like what might be helpful to look at is how much are you in or out of resistance to what would truly make you feel liberated in an embodied way. And if you can, voluntarily release the resistance, that way Uranus won't make you, won't cosmically pull the rug out from under you. But whatever our relationship to it is, there's so much possibility. Uranus is connected to the Fool card and the tarot deck, and there's infinite possibility. As the Fool steps off the cliff, doesn't really know, like we don't really see, we're in this space of unknowing and being okay in the unknowing, not necessarily being okay with maybe not seeing the direction at the moment. I feel like there's so much possibility in that. It's a few things with this Jupiter Uranus conjunction. Venus, we might say, is the guardian of the Taurus mysteries, is with Chiron in Aries. So there's this continuing Chironic theme that we've had from this eclipse season. And so what I sense is there's something really powerful here. This is like the initiation to really heal, maybe wounds or self-limiting beliefs around our self-worth, and to really embrace and embody our self-worth as we're stepping into this new possibility, and that circumstances might unfold in our lives as we're going through this to really make us claim our self-worth. And sometimes I'm experiencing this right now, sometimes we might have experiences that reflect back to us our self-limiting stories about our self-worth, our wounds, so we can heal them. We can really rise up and claim our own self-worth. And also at the time of the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, Mercury is 1 degree from the North Node, and the kind of the tail end of the Mercury retrograde. And there's so much I'm seeing about rewriting our stories and our perception from this Mercury retrograde. And it's like I've had conversations with people, and it's like, wow, we're both experiencing this experience together, and we have such radically different perceptions of what's happening. It feels like we're talking to someone who's on a different planet, who's having a completely different experience, even though we're experiencing the same thing. And so like really surrender and accept that from our own stories, right? This is Mercury moon, our own stories, we can have such radically different perceptions about the same experience, and that can be okay. That when we can, and we can in neuro, you brought in some of this too before, that when we can just be okay and accepting, we all have our own perception or different stories. And I've also really seen with myself and others just how blind we can be to how our stories are self-limiting us and kind of putting like blinders on our perception. And when we can see the possibility that there's more ways to see this situation than I am seeing available right now, and just even opening to that awareness, maybe we can't even make ourselves see a new perception, but just to even acknowledge there's more ways to see what's unfolding than the way I can see things. And there's more possibilities and opportunities and options available to me than I see right now, then it's like things can really open up. And I feel like with Uranus, with Mercury with the North Node at the time of this Jupiter Uranus conjunction at the tail end of Mercury retrograde, it's like there are new ways to see things that will open up new possibilities and new directions forward. And I totally agree with you, Mar, and what you were sharing. It's like this a continuation of eclipse season. And it feels like we've been surrendering so much. We're opening to new possibility. We don't really know the new possibility we're opening it to yet. And what I do sense is it's more beautiful, Taurus, right? More beautiful and abundant than we can ever imagine. That there's just to me, like just being okay with being in that wild unknown, being okay with being out of our comfort zone of needing to know. If we can do that and be open that there's more ways to see things than I can see right now, and there's more opportunities and possibility, and there's abundance right here that maybe I can't even see. Maybe I can open up and receive. Venus is about receiving. Like I feel that there's wild possibility here.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, everybody, for your insights. And I have a couple of thoughts coming up. One, following up on what you were saying, Jamie, about resistance, because sometimes I notice that I really have a desire to not be resisting, but I'm resisting my resisting. So then that brings us to, how do we get to acceptance, and how do we accept what is? I've been revisiting Ken Kai's book. He wrote Handbook to Higher Consciousness and also a book called Prescriptions for Happiness. And the first prescription, he says, is to ask for what you want, but don't demand it, which I feel like is probably a really good thing to do in a new moon time, or like Uranus and Jupiter coming together in Taurus for the first time in many, many years. And so asking for what we want, but not from a demanding kind of place. So what is it that we're choosing? What is it that we're wanting to create as we're creating a new Earth paradise? What would that look like? How would that be? And ask for it, because if we don't ask for it, we won't get it. So start asking for that, but not with a demanding kind of like this has to happen energy. And the second one he has is accept what is for now. And this one has been really speaking to me a lot lately. And I really got into this probably in the, oh gosh, over 15, 20 years ago. And now I'm revisiting it again. It just kind of came back on my awareness, into my field of awareness. And the idea of accepting what is. And sometimes that's not easy. And if we can just, because we can resist accepting too. We can resist resisting, we can resist accepting, we can resist those things. And so sometimes maybe we just need to give ourselves the space to accept that we're resisting. and and that we need to just be with that and feel that and experience that, and not necessarily try to rush through that. Although some of us might be, with all the Aries energy, might be a little impatient and want to get there quicker. Anyway, so accepting what is for now. And one of the things he says is, you might not accept it 10 minutes from now. You might not accept it 2 minutes from now. But if you can just find a place to accept it for at least a moment, and then just keep coming back to that practice, and also because we're being opened up to new possibilities, as Jamie was talking about, that we haven't even imagined. We don't even know what they are going to be. And if we're so stuck in the resistance and keeping our vision locked down or not open or expanded, then we can miss opportunities that are going to just be amazing for us. So with all of this, I just wanted to say too, that something unique that's happening this month on April 27th is that Sedna is returning to Gemini. And Gemini is the storyteller. How are we telling the new story? Sedna's story, how she's like the divine feminine who sank down to the bottom of the ocean, or down to the bottom of our subconscious, rising back up and now having a new way of expressing herself, and coming back into a greater sense of consciousness and awareness with the Pleiades. So the 29 degrees Taurus point and the 0 degrees Gemini point is where the Pleiades are currently located. And that changes over time, but that's what's happening for now. And it'll be that way for probably, close to 72 years. I'm trying to think, the last two planets, two stars of the Pleiades move into Gemini in the next 20 or 30 years. So it's, then they'll all be around 0 Gemini. But so in bringing in that energy, it's like what the magical stars that we can work with to also help enhance our intentions. And with Sedna coming back here, and it's every 11,500 years, she went into Gemini last year, she came back into 29 Taurus, she's coming back into Gemini on April 27th, the same day Venus is going into the underworld. So it's kind of like a rising and a setting happening simultaneously between these two, which is very fascinating. And being willing to surrender and die to the old ways. Ultimately, Venus is saying, okay, I'm dying to who I think I am so I can be reborn to who I really am. And Sedna is rising up and saying, hey, I'm here to be seen and known in a different way. Something to know is that Sedna has an 11,500 year orbit. We didn't even know she existed until 2003. She's making her closest approach to the sun in 2070 something, 2076, I want to say. And she's going to be in Gemini until 2066. So she doesn't move fast, but she's moving faster than she usually moves, if that makes any sense. Anyway, and then all this, all the Taurian energy, as Nura was pointing out, we have Beltane coming up when the sun reaches 15 degrees of Taurus. We have Mercury is well, we'll have the sun conjunct Uranus on May 13th, and then Mercury goes into Taurus on May 15th, and then Venus will conjunct Uranus on May 18th, and then the sun conjuncts Jupiter on May 18th also, and then Mars, oh, sorry, no, not that one, but then the sun goes into Gemini on May 19th. So our solar month is ending on the 18th with all this Taurus energy. So we're just getting started with this Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in Taurus. So mind-blowing, so amazing, and such a great opportunity that we haven't maybe ever had on planet Earth before. So with that,
I love that story of Sedna in connection with the full moon, because like the full moon is bringing, I forgot when I mentioned it before, is squaring Pluto as well. Like, so it is an intense full moon, right? Like Scorpio by itself is already like, go there, right? Let's go to the fears. Let's go to the underworld. Venus, as Kylie was saying, is also going into the underworld. Sedna with the story into these waters, these deep waters, and all the gifts that we can bring from there. And then the new moon in Taurus is close, very, very close to the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. So it's another activation of that happens on the 21st, but then May 8th is like activated. So it's also a really nice day to do like ceremony for that new thing that we want to embrace and embody, because Taurus is all about embodying that energy, and it's not from the mind, is everything that we are talking about here is not something that we can discover by thinking about it. Is something that we can just dance it and walk, and then how when we walk new ideas come through also, like when we move the body, the cellular memory. And this is something that it was coming to me when Kailin was talking about the new stories that we are bringing forward with Sedna and with these Pleiades as well energy. Is like the memory is in our cells, is in our DNA, and we are not going to find our mission, our role in life outside of ourselves, because it's all encrypted inside. We just need to allow the space. And sometimes I think with the way that society is built, there is not the space for Taurus to really enjoy. And what is coming to me is the same that our sexual encounters, right? It's like, what do we want? Something just like quick and fast, or we want something slow and then take the time and then feel the energy of the other person and then really truly connect through the heart and truly connect with the other person and have this experience for hours. Like, what do we really want? And this is something that if we are in a very fast mood that sometimes is necessary. But if we are there, we are missing the cellular memory because that's very quiet. It takes attention and intention, and it takes silence and space. So I think this month, in order to have all these revelations that we are talking about, all this new reality, there is this need for all of us, and it's coming through me as we are sharing, right? Like, it's very clear always that how we are weaving the story together. And it's like, how can we find that time to really be, as Nura was saying, the priority is what makes me joyful and what I enjoy the most. And I know for some people, maybe there is not that space, right? Like, if you are a mom with a little child and working in a normal job with the normal schedule that we set, and that is the revolution. That's not normal. We are not meant to work 10 hours non-stop in something that we don't love. So I think the whole Taurus mystery is kind of like, how can we make a priority of that pleasure, and in that new moon to really set the intention to say, in whatever my reality is, with that acceptance of what is my reality, as Kajelin was saying, is how can I bring more pleasure in a very simple way? It doesn't have to be complicated, but through that pleasure, information is coming through as well.
Yes. Here's to information through pleasure. I'm about that. Who else? I love that you brought in the Pluto square, because especially in fixed signs, Taurus, Scorpio, fixed earth and fixed water, and then fixed air. There's so much energy around breaking out of kind of stubborn holding patterns that are actually very easy to kind of get stuck in. It's pretty easy to kind of say, okay, this is the algorithm, this is the pace, this is what we're doing now. And it can kind of pull us in because it's so it can sustain itself. So in one sense, that's the gift of fixed signs, is like, once you get something started with fixed energy, it can stay followed through. It can last a long time. But that also means the reverse. Like, we can kind of get ourselves pulled into, like, oh no, now all of a sudden looking at this phone first thing in the morning is like fixed into my habitual patterning. So it's easy to get kind of hooked into habits that are not supportive. But that being said, this full moon square Pluto is also an opportunity to unhook from unhealthy habits and patterns that we don't want to see us get fixed into. So what was coming through when you were mentioning all of that, Maud, was the difference between neurotransmitters and hormones. So if you've ever studied, anatomy or A&P class, you kind of learn that neurotransmitters are like the text messages, like they're just coming immediately. Boom. Okay. Had the thought, it's there. ChatGPT, what's the answer to all of these questions? Boom. Here's the answer. And then hormones are like snail mail. They take a bit of time to work through the system. And when you ever make a change, even something as simple as like breathing differently or sitting differently with your posture, it's going to help you to open up, thyroid, parathyroid glands, like all your body is going to move differently. It's going to trigger this cascade of hormonal experience in your body that you actually need to give it time to do the work that it's going to do. It's not going to happen immediately, the same way that we might be able to tune into with the neurotransmitter. And so it kind of gets, there's a lot of back and forth here, but the whole point that I'm trying to make is we need to give ourselves time for the changes to actually see the results. And that's where I think Taurus and Scorpio, they can really help stretch us into that possibility. So it's like holding things a little bit longer. I had a really wonderful yoga teacher who just told me, stay in the pose until you feel something change. If you're just trying to move through quick, like boom, 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 this is my asana practice, I'm just going to do it to get out of it. Like I'm trying to do all the poses just so that I could say that I did them because I know they're good for me, versus I'm going to stay in this forward fold until I actually feel something shift inside me. So I think there's something to honoring slowness as a form of medicine, as a form of, this is actually going to help me. And so there could be, that in conjunction with the liberation of who we think we are in our creative process. We've talked so much about resistance. I mean, maybe the resistance is changing how we do what we do. Like, we're resistant to change because we're comfortable with the patterns. And what if, instead of feeling like, oh, my resistance is to doing all these things that I don't want to do, it's like, well, what if the resistance was to actually slowing down a little bit? And all of the thoughts that come up, well, like, oh no, if I don't do XYZ, then I'm going to go live under a bridge somewhere. Like, we kind of go to the worst possible case scenario. Like, if I'm not hustling and working so hard and working so fast, like, I'm going to end up in some like horrible experience. I talk about this all the time with my friends. It's like, there's going to be a lot of steps from here to there. You're going to have a lot of moments before you living under a bridge happens. So you can afford to take a break. You can afford to take a rest and reassess and slow down and honor your pace. And so how else can you really tune into a rhythm that works for you if you don't sort of unhook from the algorithm or unhook from, there's a term in like music studies that's called listener obedience. Like the typical like 3 minutes of a song that has a very steady beat, and it kind of is programmed specifically to make you feel things, and it's according to this very specific and limited band of frequency that it's kind of like a form of brainwashing, or it can be. So that being sort of hooked into the listener obedience, it kind of makes us expect and place a subconscious expectation on all music that we hear to sound like that, or to kind of lead us through a similar process or a similar feeling cascade. Which then, if you kind of then listen to something like jazz, or you listen to like any kind of other music that's outside of the mainstream, you start to realize, oh, like, my brain is being asked to experience this differently. Like, it's not fitting in the box, the puzzle piece of the way music is supposed to happen. So I'm being challenged by these vibrations, and all of a sudden I'm liberated because I'm not in that box of listener obedience. So even Taurus having such an affinity with sound healing, the sound waves, like that can be a really powerful way. I think kind of bringing it all back to the Jupiter Uranus is, that's part of the amplification of a new vibration. Like, amplify something outside of the whatever is the form of listener obedience that you might have been into. I mean, we can tie that even to, if you consume social media, it's like, well, there's the reel and it's supposed to be this long, and there's all of these rules and structures around how to get the algorithm to see you. It's like, well, who's training who here? Are we training the algorithms, or is the algorithm training us to kind of fit into that mold? So I think this, we can use the word resistance in a lot of ways. We can be the resistance to listener obedience or algorithm obedience. And that's really, I think, where the freedom comes. But we have to be able to give ourselves the time and space away from it long enough to realize, oh, this is my rhythm. Oh, this is where I'm at right now. So I ultimately feel like everything comes together for this beautiful, I would say, biological empowerment this month.
Oh, I love that, Nora. And as you're sharing about sound, I'm always fascinated what's happening in my environment and how it relates to what I want to bring through and the greater messages here. There's like someone, a neighbor, like with a leaf blower or I don't know, something out the window. And I have the hardest time with those kinds of like industrial sounds. They just feel like they scramble my nervous system. And I think there's a message here because Jupiter is moving through the last decan of Taurus. While we'll be in the Taurus Solar Month. Jupiter is going to move into Gemini May 25th, and we'll be in Gemini for a year. Jupiter in May of 2023 first moved into Taurus. So we're working with, there's this opportunity for this expansive groundedness, this expansive embodiment as Jupiter is moving through the last decan of Taurus, and even meeting Uranus along the way. I feel like we're really being initiated. How expansive can we get through our embodiment? Like, how deeply can we root in our body and to be so grounded that we can have this expansiveness no matter like what chaos might be going on around us? And how can we, through our body, move with that energy? And you kind of spoke to that, Nura, like, because I was, even before you spoke to, I was sitting here like, I really want to kind of like move and like rock to be able to work that like chaotic sound that I'm hearing like through my energy field. And so I think that we do have this really powerful opportunity to really tap into the brilliance and the wisdom of our body, how to move with energy, how to move with what might feel like chaotic energy coming from the outside. Especially Pluto goes retrograde May 2nd, I believe. And this will be initiating, now Pluto's going retrograde, I believe, at 2 Aquarius, but Pluto is initiating moving back to Capricorn for the last time, you know, in our lifetime, unless there's some like really wild like technological advance, because Pluto has a 245-year cycle. But so this last time of Pluto going back into Capricorn, and you know, we might see some we're going to continue to probably see some chaotic things on the world stage, as it's like the last power grab for the old world, and then it's like, you know, we're just, the old world is dying or being reborn into this new earth frequency, and we're midwifing this new world. And so there's also beauty, there's beauty and abundance all around us that we can tap into. But I feel the more grounded and embodied we are, and that will help us move through the energy of anything that feels chaotic that's happening. And as Jupiter is moving through the last decan of Taurus, this is like the opportunity to also tap into the wild abundance and expansion that's here. And we're tapping into it through our bodies. Like, how much can we get in our bodies and really open up and receive? And tapping into gratitude, I feel, is so important right now, even when it feels like, gosh, if things aren't going the way I want them in life too, like, you know, kind of Kaylin, you spoke to that, just accepting that we might be in resistance, but also finding gratitude for what is and what we do have. That gratitude is just really magnetic to even open up and receive more abundance, and doing whatever it is that makes you feel open and receptive and abundant as well. But also big new expansive opportunities. Jupiter brings right place, right time. Jupiter brings fated things, divine synchronicity, divine timing. I've had those, like when Jupiter's doing stuff in my chart, it's like, wow, sometimes that's just when I didn't see it coming, just that person reached out and offered me that opportunity. You know, there's a lot of, you know, kind of the fated things that could be coming into our life right now, especially with the Jupiter Uranus conjunction. Lots of exciting opportunities. And I always mention, when there's with Uranus, if sometimes new and exciting opportunities come out of nowhere, and they often are where we don't have a lot of time to make a decision. When Uranus, it's like quick moving change, and it's like the doors open, and as fast as the doors open, it may close for right now. Of course, doors can always open again later. And when Uranus is involved, we often do have to make quick decisions. So this is a really powerful opportunity to trust into our instinctual wisdom. And when Uranus is involved, if something feels right, but it feels scary, but you're really checking in with your discernment, if it feels right in your heart, that's when it's like often a really powerful time. Take that leap of faith, even if it feels scary. Of course, don't do it blindly. Check in with your discernment. But I always say, when Uranus is involved, if a new opportunity comes out of nowhere and you have to make a quick decision, if it feels right and it feels scary, go for it. Take that leap of faith.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Take the leap of faith. And sometimes it can feel like we get diverted off on a path that wasn't the path that we thought we were going to be on, but it winds up being the perfect path. So in some way that we couldn't have imagined. So I'm feeling like I'm inspired to come up with, and I've been doing this for a while anyway, but I'm just kind of going to add to it, that maybe we have a kind of touchstone that we come back to. So I'm going to offer one that I'm feeling into, and then maybe each of you can offer one that you're feeling into as we wrap this up. So for me, I'm thinking genuine, healthy, embodied, sacred pleasure and acceptance. Okay, so
I absolutely second that. Something that we did at the retreat was every single morning we put on some music and we just got into our bodies and danced. And I think that was a big theme, was just tuning into music and vibration that really serves us where we're at. And so I would very much invite everybody to make some playlists, really fill it with your favorite songs, your favorite sounds, and just get into what feels good in your body. For me, it often looks like, okay, it's partially yoga and it's also a free dance moves, and it's also some sounds coming out, and not being afraid to get a little weird, especially if you're just by yourself.
Gratitude.
Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say gratitude and leave it at that.
Yes, yes. I was just wanted to add when Nura was saying that that this is the feminine mysteries were like that, like the women, the priestesses is about dancing and singing and holding a space in that way through movement, and it's very important for women to sing in that way with the tribe and to dance with each other to create community in a very flesh kind of way, because it's like it's magical how our periods synchronize with each other. And when you are a long time with another woman and then suddenly it's like the same cycle, and it's a natural thing that has been taken away from us. And I think the revolution now is to bring it back and to really enjoy that is just natural.
Yes,
I love
and I would
that.
love to maybe, I don't know if any of you have anything else to say, but maybe as we're closing out, we can all ohm together, because there's something so special about the sounds when we're sharing sound. We're connecting our hearts in that way. So you watching too, maybe you can ohm with us when we ohm out.
Oh, I
yeah.
love that. And I just wanted to also share, coming back to the possibility of the wild present moment. Taurus is so much about the present moment. And if you can like come into your body and feel the possibility in every moment, it's really powerful.
Yeah, because we tend to live in the past or the future. So coming into the present is definitely what Taurus would, where we can experience the greatest amount of pleasure. So just saying, I love it. Let's all.
Yes.
Inhale together. Oh.